23 stab wounds. That is how the most powerful man in the world died. Not on a battlefield, not at war. In a room, surrounded by his closest friends. The men he trusted most killed him. But here is the real question nobody asks. Did Rome lose a tyrant, or did it lose its greatest man? This is Julius Caesar, and the truth is more shocking than the murder. 100 BC, Rome. A boy is born into the Julian family, one of Rome's oldest and most noble families. They claimed to be descendants of the goddess Venus herself. But noble blood meant nothing without money, and the Julians had very little of it. Young Gaius Julius Caesar grew up in the Suburra, one of Rome's poorest, most crowded, most dangerous neighborhoods. Not in a palace, not in luxury, on the streets of Rome. And those streets taught him something no aristocratic education ever could. How ordinary Romans thought, what they wanted, what they feared, what they dreamed of. That knowledge, that deep, instinctive connection to the common people, would become his most powerful political weapon. From childhood, Caesar was extraordinary. Brilliant student, natural speaker, obsessed with two things above everything else: power and glory. At age 16, his father died suddenly. Caesar was now the man of the family, with debt, with responsibility, with a burning ambition, and absolutely nothing to lose. Caesar's early life was defined by danger and ambition. At age 18, the Roman dictator Sulla ordered Caesar's arrest because of his political connections. Caesar went into hiding, survived, refused to be broken. When Sulla died, Caesar emerged and immediately began climbing. He was charming beyond belief. People were drawn to him instinctively. Men wanted to follow him. Women adored him. Even his enemies respected him. He spent money he didn't have, throwing lavish public games, building monuments, bribing voters, all to buy popularity. He went so deep into debt that his creditors almost had him arrested. But Caesar understood something fundamental about Roman politics. Popularity was power, and he was buying it strategically. At age 31, he visited a statue of Alexander the Great in Spain. He broke down and wept. When asked why, he said, "At my age, Alexander had already conquered the world. What have I done?" That moment lit a fire that would never go out. He returned to Rome, won election after election, formed a secret alliance called the First Triumvirate with Rome's two most powerful men, the wealthy Crassus and the great general Pompey. Together, the three men controlled Rome. But Caesar wanted more than control. He wanted glory. And glory meant only one thing: war. In 58 BC, Caesar became governor of Gaul, modern-day France, Belgium, and Switzerland. It was wild territory, unconquered, dangerous, perfect. What followed over the next 8 years was one of the greatest and most brutal military campaigns in history. Caesar fought his way across Gaul, tribe by tribe, forest by forest, river by river. He was not just a politician playing at war. He was a military genius. He inspired absolute loyalty in his soldiers, eating the same food, sleeping in the same conditions, marching at the front of the column. His men would die for him, and often did. He crossed the Rhine River into Germany, something no Roman general had ever done, just to send a message to the Germanic tribes. He crossed the English Channel and invaded Britain twice. simply because no Roman had ever done it before. He fought over 30 battles in Gaul, won almost all of them. But the defining moment came in 52 BC. All of Gaul united under one leader, a young chieftain named Vercingetorix, in a massive final rebellion against Rome. Caesar was surrounded, outnumbered, cut off from supplies. His response was extraordinary. He built 2 walls, one facing the Gauls inside the fortress of Alesia, one facing the massive relief army coming from outside. Caesar was simultaneously besieging and being besieged. After weeks of brutal fighting, Vercingetorix surrendered. Gaul was conquered. Caesar was now the most famous man in the Roman world, and the most dangerous. Back in Rome, his enemies were waiting. While Caesar was conquering Gaul, the political situation in Rome had collapsed. Crassus was dead. Pompey had switched sides, joining the Senate against Caesar. The Senate issued an ultimatum: disband your army, return to Rome as a private citizen. They knew what awaited him: arrest, trial, execution. Caesar stood at the banks of a small river, the Rubicon, the legal boundary of Roman Italy. Roman law was absolute. No general could cross the Rubicon with his army. To do so was an act of war against Rome itself. Caesar stood there in silence. His generals waited. His soldiers waited. The entire future of Rome waited. And then, Caesar spoke the most famous words in Roman history. The die is cast. He crossed. Civil war exploded across the Roman world. But what happened next shocked everyone. Caesar moved so fast, so decisively, that city after city surrendered before a single battle was fought. Pompey fled Italy completely, abandoning Rome without a fight. Caesar walked into the greatest city in the world, unopposed. Caesar now controlled Rome. But he did something his enemies never expected. He forgave them. Generals who had fought against him pardoned. Senators who had plotted against him invited back. Pompey's supporters welcomed. It was called clementia, mercy, and it was either his greatest virtue or his most fatal mistake. He launched reforms that transformed Rome. He reformed the calendar, creating the Julian calendar that formed the basis of the calendar we use today. He rebuilt cities, started public works programs, gave land to his veterans, extended Roman citizenship to people across the empire. He traveled to Egypt, where he met a young queen named Cleopatra, and fell completely under her spell. They became lovers. She bore him a son. Back in Rome, Caesar was appointed dictator, then dictator for 10 years, then dictator for life. The word that had once described a temporary emergency power was now permanent. And the Roman Republic, the system of shared power that Rome had protected for 500 years, was effectively dead. Some Romans cheered. Others sharpened their knives. A group of senators, calling themselves the Liberators, began to plot. Their leader was Marcus Junius Brutus, one of Caesar's closest friends, a man Caesar trusted completely, a man Caesar loved almost like a son. They convinced themselves they were saving Rome, saving democracy, saving the Republic. March 15th, 44 BC, the Ides of March. Caesar was warned not to go to the Senate that day. A soothsayer had told him, "Beware the Ides of March." His wife Calpurnia begged him to stay home. She had dreamed of his murder. Caesar almost listened. Then, one of the conspirators went to his house and convinced him the Senate had important business. Caesar walked in. The senators crowded around him, pretending to present a petition. And then, the first knife fell, then another, and another. 23 senators stabbing the most powerful man in the world. Caesar fought back at first, then saw Brutus among the attackers. According to legend, he looked at Brutus and said, "Et tu, Brute? Even you, Brutus?" And then he covered his face with his toga and fell. Julius Caesar, conqueror of Gaul, master of Rome, the greatest Roman who ever lived, died on the Senate floor, alone, bleeding, betrayed. Here is the great irony of Caesar's assassination. The senators killed Caesar to save the Republic. Instead, they destroyed it forever. Caesar's death plunged Rome into the most devastating civil war in its history. His lieutenant, Mark Antony, and his adopted son, Octavian, hunted down every single conspirator. Brutus and Cassius, defeated at the Battle of Philippi, took their own lives. Then Antony and Octavian turned on each other. Another civil war. Another decade of bloodshed. Finally, Octavian won. He renamed himself Augustus and became Rome's first true emperor. The republic the senators died to protect was replaced by something far more powerful and far less free than anything Caesar ever built. The men who killed Caesar thought they were heroes. History made them the reason Rome never had a republic again. Caesar's last joke on the men who murdered him was that his death made everything they feared inevitable. Julius Caesar was not a simple man. He was not simply a hero, not simply a villain. He was brilliant and ruthless, generous and dangerous, visionary and reckless. He reformed the calendar we still use today. He built the political template that Augustus, Napoleon, and modern leaders all studied and copied. He gave us the word Kaiser in German, Tsar in Russian. Both come directly from the name Caesar. 2,000 years after his death, his name is still a title, still a symbol, still a warning of what one man's ambition can do to an entire civilization. If this video gave you something, like it. It helps this channel more than you know. Subscribe for the complete ancient history series. We are just getting started. And tell me in the comments, was Caesar a hero who saved Rome or a tyrant who destroyed it? I will see you in the next one.